Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another GME Compass Let's Talk conversation. Today, we're joined by Arielle King, MSML. She's a Psychiatry Program Administrator for GME at Cape Fear Valley Health. Arielle brings more than a decade of progressive experience across healthcare administration, higher education, as well as medical education. Her leadership and contributions have been recognized through several honors, including the National Society of Academic Medicine Administrators Distinguished New Medical Educator Administrators Award. In today's conversation, leveraging the transferable skills that make you a distinctive GME professional, Arielle and I are going to explore how skills GME professionals develop along the way, from strategic thinking, relationship building, to communication, problem solving, operational relationships, extend far beyond any single role or responsibility. So we're going to discuss how to recognize and articulate those strengths that can help GME professionals elevate their impact, expand their opportunities, and more confidently own the value that they bring to their institutions and the broader field of graduate medical education. So welcome, Arielle.
Thanks. That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful.
Thank you for having me. Really excited. Topic that is pretty near and dear to my heart. I have had a pretty interesting career, and all roads, I think, prepared me for GME. GME wasn't something that I knew anything about. You go to the doctor and you don't think about all of the steps that they have to take to get there. You just think, okay, this person went to school for 15, 20 years. Like they've spent their life in school and now they're working. But you don't think about all of the integral pieces and parts and people who really help to get them to where they are. And being in GME, you are that integral piece and part. And especially from an administrator standpoint, we operate a lot behind the scenes. And so today it's really cool and very exciting to at least talk about all of the experiences that you have behind the scenes that get you to right here. So really excited.
It's interesting as you say that, like it made it pop in my mind of it doesn't really happen anymore because I feel like I've been in GME so long that just people just like I have it on a t-shirt that I can't see, but the rest of the world does that like, hey, my name is Julie and I
Right.
work in GME. But
Yeah.
think I think back to earlier in my career where so many people in my family, in my community, friends, whatever, might go to the emergency room or go to their PCP or whatever. And they're like, they tried to give me a student or, they tried to give me a
Right.
resident, right? And now nobody says that because they're ready for the lecture of, well, I would rather have a student or I
Hmm.
actually would rather have a resident. And this is why. And now you're about
Yep.
to get a 10-minute lecture on the benefits of being in a teaching room, whether it's the hospital,
Hmm.
the emergency room, an outpatient. You are about to learn the things because I'm going to share with you why you always want a learner.
Right, you do. And it's like working here and seeing the excitement around just being in the space of learning and everybody's trying to maintain the same growth mindset. Everybody's open to being collaborative. Everybody's open to feedback. They're open to criticisms. You're not stuck in the world of, well, this is how I've always done it and this is it. They're always open to change. They're open to critiques, and your residents are going to be the ones that think outside the box, but
Yeah,
they're also going to be the ones I feel like that are going to, between your residents and your students, they're going to be the ones that take the most care because
absolutely.
one, they don't want to make a mistake. So
No.
they're literally going to explore every option that you hadn't even thought of versus someone who's been in private practice or that's been an ER doc or that's been an internal medicine doc for, 20, 30 plus years. It's like, oh, I've seen something similar to that. I've seen, 15 variations of this. So I think it's this. Here you go. You're out the door. But your resident or your student, they've never seen it. They're
Yes.
curious as to why are you here? What's the diagnosis? How can I help? And they're going to run through 15 different diagnosis, treatment plans, et cetera, to make sure that you get the best result. So,
And you know what? They're going to run through all of those things and they're going to have an attending physician that's signing off on it,
yep.
that they're talking through each other's perspectives, each other's learning points. Like it just
Hmm.
deepens whether you're there for something baseline and minor or you're there for something more complicated. It just changes and deepens the thought process and how
Yeah.
you get to what your needs are.
And it's cool because being um in the GME space as a whole, we often talk about how we are pretty much kind of siloed
Hmm.
within our own little specialty. So I talk to the group. I'm a psychiatry admin, so my group is AdPERT, and I talk to the AdPERT listserv. But within our GME department, it's across all specialties. So you really get a chance to collaborate and bounce ideas off of each other because the way that internal medicine handles things is different from how emergency medicine handles things. But ultimately, we all have our standard operating procedures and policies, and we have our accreditation check marks that we have to reach. So you have to be able to bounce ideas and collaborate. And it's similar to, when you're having a student doctor or a resident physician, they're within that space to be able to collaborate as
Yeah.
well. So we all have the same mission. It's just we may take different roads to get there.
Correct. Correct. But they're all in the generally same neighborhood.
And that's ultimately, I feel like, how everybody kind of lands up in GME. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anybody who graduates from college with their degree in, like me, I came out of college with a communications degree, right? I didn't come out of college saying, you know what, my ultimate goal now that I have this degree is to be a program administrator in graduate medical education. It literally was something that everything I did built upon itself. So, like, I came from pharmaceutical sales. I did that for a lot of years. I was a sales rep, probably about 8 to 10 years. Then got my master's, transitioned to HR, did some home health medical device sales, and everything that I did, including fundraising. I was a fundraiser for my alma mater, Go Broncos, Fayetteville State University. So I was a fundraiser for them for almost 2 years. And every skill that I picked up from, territory development, business to business sales, with fundraising as far as network, alumni affairs, putting together groups, connecting the dots, all of those things prepared me for here. Because in GME, you have so many different roles and so many different tasks and so many different things that you have to do. You really need like your whole bag of tricks to be
There you go.
successful within this role. We put together at the end of match what I started doing within my department. It was my first match season. I was super excited because we like filled all our spots. We didn't have to soak. I was very, very nervous about this whole soap scramble thing that I knew nothing about, but I just knew the thought of having to go through 2 intense days of like nothing but interviews all day and having to make decisions on the spot, that made me a little nervous. So at the end of match season, I said, you know what? We put together all of these match celebrations for our student doctors who have matched. We need to do something for us, as in admins in GME, because we survived. We have coordinated interview season. We have sent out the invites. We've pulled the ERAS applications. We've gone through the ERAS applications. We've done all of these things. And so we should celebrate too. So I put together like a match day celebration for the admins, and we went off site and just went out to eat. And it was really cool because it was just a really relaxed thing. So then this past interview season that we had, my department said, "So Arielle, what are you doing this year?" And I said,
What are you planning?
"Oh, this has become a thing. Okay, cool." So instead of a after work, I did a breakfast because I was like, we already know who we match because we find out the day before. So let's go ahead, do a breakfast because by the time 12 o'clock rolls around, by 12:15, we're all in our offices,
Yep.
sending out our congratulations. We're so excited to have you doing all of those things, sending out the individual calendar invites to meet with your people over the next couple of weeks. So it was really cool. And I say all that because without my alumni affairs experience, I wouldn't have thought to put something together. And I wouldn't have thought to do things like that within my department. That led me to being on the wellness committee, with my department and helping to facilitate things. But it also helped me when it comes to doing our orientation and our onboarding. Because with our department, we don't have a separate GME department. Like we don't have, a separate GME department that they handle all of the documents for orientation and onboarding and they facilitate the agenda or anything. It's us as the admins. We as a GME department with the help of our leadership, we put all of that together. And it really helps because I've gotten to the point where I do the menu for the week. So I'm putting together the food, I'm putting together the snacks, everything's lined up. And these are all little things that people are like, what does this have to do with what you do every day? You are creating the atmosphere. You have to create the welcoming atmosphere. So, like within alumni affairs, you want to welcome your alumni back. You want to, make them feel comfortable, get them excited about pulling out their checkbooks. And vice versa. Here, I want our residents to be excited about matching to Cape Fear, especially those who have come and they have no one, they have no ties to the area whatsoever. You have become their tie. They
I
know
don't
you.
I don't know how many times my husband would be like, help me understand again why you got chocolate covered Oreos with uteruses on it.
Yes.
Like, and how does one find someone that does that? Like, like,
Be
and
surprised.
I was like, that's what I was like. Fun fact, I found someone who does chocolates that knows how to do the Texas Longhorn logo.
Hmm.
And it's just transferable, much like our conversation today.
Exactly.
But like he'd be like, why do we got snacks again with the uterus
Yep.
on it and some notebooks? And why are they all over my dining room?
Yep.
Like, and for whatever time of year it was and what we were doing and stuff, and he'd be like, I don't understand. Or we would go through the fun game of trying to get of the kids as they got older of like, what does mommy do?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I have three. I have my son is 15. My oldest daughter just turned 15, and my youngest is 8. And all of them have been up here. They all know everybody. They have met my program director, my APD. They know my residents. But my oldest daughter was in her group chat and they were asking her, they were like, Carter, your mom works at the hospital. Is she a nurse? And my daughter was like, no. So, yeah, my mom is like an administrator
My mom is
with,
something.
yeah, but she works with the people like they're doctors, but they're not quite doctors yet. And she makes sure that like all their paperwork is good for them to be doctors. And I'm like, close enough.
Like, and she would be like, especially my daughter, my son, like, whatever. And now as he's older, he wants to go into medicine, so he has a
Mhm.
better grasp on it. But for the longest time, my daughter would be like, so you buy the food and make sure that they have the food
Yes.
on their badges. Well,
Yes.
yeah, but you interview and you hire them. Well, we don't really hire them.
Yeah.
And then she'll hear me in a conversation, like, putting a grant together or something, and she's
Mhm.
like, "Wait, you're writing a paper asking for money. I thought you got the food." And then she'll hear me on a conversation, like, curriculum design for faculty
Yes.
development, and she's like, "Well, who's the faculty?" "Well, that's the doctors." "Wait, now you're teaching the doctors?" "Well,
Yeah.
no, but next Friday I am." And
Right.
then I'll be doing something for AtMog and I'm on a stage for program managers and she's like, and you teach the program manager. She's like, I don't understand. I thought you were a doctor all my life. Like, and now all of these little things
Right.
are coming. And like, but it's like all of these little nuggets are accurate, but it's
Hmm.
the whole picture of all of these little nuggets.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a unique field that once you are into it, it's either your jam or it isn't.
100%. It's
So
a fit or it's not a fit.
yeah. So like for me coming into it, I was very intentional in what I wanted in my next position. I had always been something similar to like the subject matter expert of whatever it was that I was talking about. And so I still wanted to have that, be the go-to person feel, but I wanted something that was very structured, but still gave me a lot of autonomy. And it almost sounds like two things can't be true at the same time, because if it is so structured, then how do you have autonomy? But then you meet the world of GME and it's very structured in a sense of you got ACGME, you have, your RRC that you have to abide by, you have whatever your board, like for me, it's, APBN, that's our board. So we have all of these, and your sponsoring institution and all of their guidelines and everything that you have to abide by. However, you do have autonomy in how you want to set it up, and you have autonomy in how you want to facilitate it as well, as long as you are hitting off, the check marks and staying within the guidelines, you pretty much are able to do it. So, like how I interact with my residents and how I interact with my faculty might not work for how, the our cardiology or pulmonology fellowships may interact. My residents, they are fresh out of medical school. A lot of them, this is their first job. So if this is their first job, it takes a bit more hand holding,
Mhm.
and there's a lot more empathy and a lot more patience that goes into dealing with someone who has just been, high school, undergrad, maybe got their master's, PhD, then went to medical school, and now they're here. So they may have worked some part-time jobs or did something, some volunteer work, or were in a leadership position of some sort. But once they come to me, it's no, you have to badge in. Like if you don't badge in, you don't get paid. Um, and I have to, let them know, like, here's your administrative responsibilities that you have to abide by. We're in cardiology, pulmonology, or even our child and adolescent fellowship that we have here. We don't have to say those things. They've already
Mhm.
been through residency. They're Many of them have already, worked. You've had, especially when it comes to pulmonology, our pulmonology critical care fellowship, they come in and some of them have been hospitalists for a couple of years,
Mhm.
and they're now deciding to go into fellowship. So she doesn't have to have those conversations, wherein I do. I have to have those conversations. There's a little bit more of navigating between the interpersonal dynamics of your residents as they come in, and you really don't know how many different interpersonal dynamics that you have to work with until you're in it. And I can be sitting and talking about, like, yeah, so I had to sit a couple of my residents down and have this conversation, where my fellowship counterparts are just looking like, for what? Why? But it's such a unique skill set.
It really is. And the other piece to that puzzle too is like, yes, it still provides structure. It provides autonomy, but it's also cyclical where
Yeah.
you're not it's but it has this structure and autonomy, but it's not so repetitive throughout the
Yes.
year that you feel like it's something new, where even when it's not your favorite time, or if you're like me and you have ADHD, it feeds into that, because it's like, okay, I can do this and then I can pivot to this
Right.
next season, to this next season. It also is nice that like you have the rigid structure
Hmm.
And then you also have this the cyclical part of the job too, which is nice.
Yeah, and it was something that was different for me because I had come from the background of sales based or fundraising based things where you reach this goal and you celebrate for 2 seconds and then it's okay, so what's the next goal? And how do I do myself? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And that it can get to be really draining. And within here, coming here and learning like, oh, so this we only do this once a year. Okay, so I do this once a year and then I move on to something else. It, for me, brought me a different sense of peace of mind
Yeah.
because I knew coming into it, I said, okay, well, so I get through this time period and I check it off. But as long as I have hit on my check marks, then I've met my goal. There isn't something else that I'm trying to, outdo. And
Hmm.
that was wonderful. But
And
I
like
can go ahead.
something that I would try to teach, like when I was onboarding new coordinators, is also like it is a puzzle for the academic year. And
Hmm.
one puzzle for one academic year builds on the puzzle for the next academic year. And that one pulls from the previous. So, like, yes, you have your CCC season, you have your onboarding season,
Yeah,
you have your PEC, but all of those things lay the foundation for the next
it
cyclical season,
does.
you
It
know?
does. And once you get into it, so like I was explaining to my husband, I was like when I first got in here and I was letting him know, I said, the thing that I love the most is one, I'm never bored. I feel like if you come in here and you are bored, you're missing something
Hmm.
because the fact that everything does go on a cycle, once you are deep into whatever cycle it is, once you start to come, to the tail end of it, you can just start preparing for the next cycle. Like we have our lulls and our ebbs and flows. But when I was explaining to him, I said, our year starts off in July. So July is the beginning of the academic year. And then you go into the September, January timeframe. It's your interview season. That's literally your brain is on interviews. You have your
Hmm.
CCC sprinkled in there.
Yep.
And then, you finish up your interview season and now you're kind of at a little lull and then you're waiting for match. And then match happens in March and it's like, okay, great. I matched these people. Now let me prepare for these people to come on board. And so you have a lull in April where you're doing your CCCs. You may be starting to work on, some final summatives and trying to close out for those who are getting ready to exit. But come May, once they start graduating medical school, it is full steam ahead for all things orientation, onboarding, and exit. And that is from May to like mid July.
Yep.
And then I told my husband, I said, and look, we're back in July. And that's how the year goes. And I said, and
Yep.
it's so great because coming from different backgrounds of where you're just kind of going in day to day, you have, your territory set up or you have your people that you have to see, or I have my doctors that I have to see, or I have to, see these many people throughout the day. It gets old very fast. The novelty of everything wears off after like the first year.
I have always said, because whether my kids view it or not, I view myself as young in my career. I'm not as
Hmm.
old as they tell me I'm old. I feel early in my career that I don't know what my journey looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because I am very much a what is meant to be is meant to
Hmm.
be person. Like, even though I'm a planner, there's only so much like the universe has you.
Correct.
And so, but whatever that looks like, I knew I would always work in GME because I am aware of all of these transferable skills. Like, we're talking about transferable skills from your past life that apply well to GME.
Right.
There's all of these skills that you get in GME that are transferable to a different life. But I always knew that that was not a picture. I didn't know what it's going to look like, but I knew
Hmm.
that that was not a picture for me because I couldn't identify a place that had all of those things. And
Yes.
to me, that just feels mundane. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine a life without all of those things.
Yeah, and even though you're in your crazy and you're in your chaos, it's your crazy and your organized chaos. I completely understand. So I started in GME in April of 2024. So I was at the my now fourth years. It was the end of their first year when I started. And when I started here, they said, yeah, it takes you like 3 cycles before it really starts to click. And I can honestly say, yeah, it took me this past orientation and onboarding was my third because of when I started. So since I started in April, I got to go through orientation and onboarding with the class that had matched in 24. And even though I didn't go throughout their match process, I was able to onboard them. And so onboarding, 24, 25, 26, this year I was like, wow, it really is starting to click. I remember, I have to collect these documents. I have to save this like this because it has to go to the hospital because it goes through hospital credentialing. And all of the steps really started to make sense. So this year was a year that I was like, yeah, I can't see myself doing anything else.
No.
And some people would view it as a sense of complacency. And I say it's hard to be complacent when every day really is different. And there's a way to challenge and to push yourself. You just have to figure out what that looks like. Because, I mean, we both know in GME, depending on how your program is structured, there's only so many ways that you can move up. So you have to really figure out how you want to carve that out for yourself. And like in my case, it was creating my own personal goals. I knew for me, because we have it to where you come in and you're a program administrator one, and then you can move up to a program administrator two. But then past there, we only have we have two GME managers. Those spots are filled, and those two aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And we have our corporate admin director, not going anywhere anytime soon, and our ADIO, she's not going anywhere anytime soon. So then it's that you get into, okay, so what does my professional growth look like for me? What are things that, I want to do to help develop myself? And so whether for me, the Insama Award was one that when I came in, I said, I want that award. So I was like, I want that.
I love that.
Um, yeah, and I was like, how can I, what do I need to do? And come to find out, all I had to really do was my job and build those relationships and make sure that, everybody is happy in my department. And I was like, oh, cool. And I have a really awesome program director who writes literally the best letters of recommendation. And all he says is, well, I can only write the truth. So appreciate him for that. But I came in and I was like, I want that. And then my previous manager told me coming in, she said, you should apply for your tag me, whenever you are able to apply for the exam, you should do that. So put that on my little goal sheet because I said, okay. And I had no clue at the time when she told me about it. I had only been in GME for like a month. So she was speaking Greek as far as I'm concerned. And then finally, once I had gotten into it and started looking at it and hearing more about it, I said, okay, that is something that I want. And that was like my personal goal
Yeah.
that I set out. And then set out to, help us be able to increase the amount of residents that we're able to take in and we're able to have. And was able to do that because when I started, we had 24 residents. We have 34 now. So yeah. And we're approved for 36.
Awesome.
So it's really good. And then helping grow our child and adolescent fellowship program. So you really have to find those like intrinsic things that make
Yep.
you happy, that can really help you to push yourself.
And
And
that's
I
the
can,
thing, right? Is like
yeah.
thinking through of what are those things that are giving me motivation, and those things because you're pushing yourself. And by
Hmm.
you pushing yourself, you're growing. So those things change and evolve in different ways as you start checking your boxes, you start growing, and you start kind of evolving, right?
Right.
What does that look like? What is the next way I want to push myself? What is the next way I want to feel this personal professional growth, build my portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things. And yeah, I mean, and for me that's really what it was, is like over the years, in the moment of time that I was at any given time, of
Yeah.
what is giving me joy? What
Yes.
is really giving me joy? And not joy in the sense of like, oh, I love when I get to like color code and highlight, because hey, that gives me joy, by the way. Like I
Right.
am that nerdy notebook girl. But like, what is like filling my cup that
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving back and investing into myself?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? And then once you achieve that goal, it's like, okay, well, now pause and reflect and think about, where am I in this space? What is filling my cup and giving me joy?
Mm-hmm.
And pushing to the next step, the next growth, the next skill, or the next project. Like you said, like being able to, I'm the same, being a residency program coordinator and in the residency exposure for the vast majority of my years, but then one, being able to be a part of creating a fellowship, and then
Yeah.
two, being responsible for oversight of the fellowship. I learned so much. Like that
Yes.
really was challenging for me in the best way possible, because that was fun, because I was learning something completely new about GME.
Yeah. And you do. And like within our department, thankfully we are a pretty close department, because we aren't siloed and we're all on the same floor, so we see each other every day. Once if you have one department that, they're coming up on their site visit, watching them go through the process really helps because I mean, you know that eventually everybody's going to have a site visit. But being able to see them go through it and being able to look and say, "Hey, I don't necessarily know where I can help, but if I can, let me know. And can I just observe?"
Sometimes even, I mean, we would only really do this in our institution, because we had a bigger GME program with not a lot of support, which you would think should be the opposite, but hey,
Right.
that is GME funding.
That is that is jamming.
But even there's a lot of value. Like we would do it when programs had a certain amount of citations, or if they were on warning or whatever,
Mhm.
which didn't happen a lot. But even just in general, when there's a site visit, of having this system of one completely different program reviews your submissions, your
Yeah,
documentation, and
we have
how
that
it's
same.
worded, how it's put together, because they're still program coordinator, program director, program manager, but a different specialty. So they might
Mhm.
be like, tell me about this. This doesn't make sense to me. Help me understand this. And that is a world of help.
Yeah, it really is, and I don't think you get that from coming from certain backgrounds. You don't get the cross collaboration that we are able to have here. And so sometimes that is a skill that you have to develop.
Yeah.
And because not it could potentially be one that you didn't have, so you couldn't transfer it because you didn't have to have it. And you get into this department and you realize like, oh, even though we do different things, we really are on the same team.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I really enjoy that. I enjoy just being able to talk to all of my co-admins and just ask and learn. Like our general surgery, they have mock orals. I have no clue what that is. We don't do that. So
You said that would actually, because coming from OB, that's like a big thing. That would
mm,
probably be a good series to like teach about and educate about and
yeah,
what that is.
you should because you have people like me who come from psychiatry and we're like, we
'Cause it's
don't we don't have
something
that.
you can do in any specialty, right? Because you all have to sit for boards at some point. So what does
Right.
that look like, you know?
Yeah. I think that's cool. One of the things that my corporate admin director had suggested for me was to shadow someone like within leadership to help develop your leadership skills because again cross collaboration, so how one department does things, even though it's different, there are things that you can take away and make applicable to what it is that you do. And I think that's important within our role within GME. Again, going back to you have to figure out what it is for your professional development that it is, and what is your professional goal. I think it is really cool to be able to be somewhere to have opportunities like that to pick the brains of other leaders within the healthcare system. So I I don't think that that's something that I would have gotten anywhere else. Like I've had my different leadership roles throughout my different roles because essentially I was the sole person doing whatever. So you're kind of your own independent leader.
Mhm.
But being able to have leadership come in and say, hey, we see your value and we see what it is that you bring, and we want to be able to hone in on this. So that way, if something does come up, you know, you are well prepared and you're in the position to do so. But also in the event that like our GME department grows, it just sets you up to be able to really advocate for yourself to
Yep.
whether it's to restructure how your position is set up or being able to say, you know, if I take on this extra responsibility of this over here, then can that correlate to compensation of some sort?
Mhm. Absolutely.
And like with it, because within GME, you have to figure out how to advocate for yourself, whether it is advocating for yourself to attend professional development or creating your own professional development within your department, or if it's restructuring your position in some way. Because, like, you come from a GME where y'all have program managers. We don't have those. So
Yep.
we just have it's administrator and we have GME
Mhm.
managers where they oversee, you know, 4 or 5 different specialties, like four or five different admins of different specialties, not necessarily like with me having child and adolescent fellowship, um, kind of directly parallel to me. I'm the program administrator for that, but not a program manager of that.
Well, and even learning how to advocate for yourself, like most majority of your leadership are physicians,
Hmm.
which means they're scientists, right?
Yeah.
So they're data-driven people,
Right.
right? They want data. And, like, it took me a very long time to really, like, learn and tap into that and know when to tap into your data and when not to tap into it
Hmm.
and how to do that. Because ultimately it's the trainees, and when it's the trainees, that's the patients, right?
Hmm.
Like, we tell ourselves because we don't give ourselves enough credit that we don't have an impact on patient care or we're only behind the scenes, and we are behind the scenes, but we have a
Hmm.
direct reflection on what happens in front of the scenes, you know?
Correct. I go through it. My residents know like this office, this is their safe space. So I have residents who will have a difficult case because we
Yeah,
have a very, very diverse patient population with a lot of high acuity. We are in Fayetteville, so we are with the largest military base, and that leads to a very, like I said, very diverse patient population. So my residents see a lot of different things, and some of those things, they're human,
yeah,
and they have moments where they say, I need to step off the floor. I'm done on my notes, but I can't take on a new patient right now because I need to step off the floor and get myself together. And when they step off the floor, they sit here. They sit here and we have the moment of, okay, so do you need me to respond as Arielle, your administrator? Do you need me to respond as Arielle, your homegirl? Or do you need me to respond as like Ariel, mom, auntie? I just need to know. Or do you just need to vent, sit and cry, and then go on about your business? And then they tell me what they need from me. I let them do what they do. I do what I do. And then they're able to go on and be the best possible resident physician psychiatrist that they can be
yes,
because they got to pull themselves together behind the scenes. And that for me is what I absolutely love about my day. I have I have days where they come in and they're just like, "Oh my God, I got to tell you this. Hey, I picked out my wedding dress. You want to see it?" And then I have days where they walk in, they knock on the door, and they are in full blown tears.
Hmm.
But being able to help them navigate through those emotions, be there for the big moments in their lives because they are adults. Some are getting married, some are having babies, some are like really just going through life at the moment. But being able to be there and be there for them so that way they're able to be there for their patients is wonderful. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that you said that about like we, even though we are in the background, we are still in the forefront of patient care
a
because you don't
hundred
think about
percent.
it that way.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
Yeah. And
Well,
it's good. So
thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a blast.
did thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for
If
having me.
We would love to have you back. So if
Yes.
there's anything you think of that you are like, I want to talk about this, or I think this would be helpful, please don't ever hesitate to let us know. But it was a blast. I love sitting and just talking GME. I could do it forever
Yeah.
with all the people. I love GME. So
Well, my dad always said that when you find something you love, you never work a day in your life. And I can say I don't feel like I've worked in almost 3 years now. So
that's amazing.
I love what I do and I love my residents and my program director and my APD, my department chair. They and all of my faculty, they really allow me to come in and just be myself because I told them in the interview, like, this is it. This is what you get. I hope you like it. If you don't, it's all good. So it's worked out really well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything shapes out throughout the years because my program director and I, our youngest kids are the same age.
That's
So
awesome.
we're gonna be together for a while.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
But
thank
yeah,
you
thank
so much.
you. I
We'll
appreciate
we'll talk again soon. Bye,
yes.
everybody.
Bye.